Jugaad, the flexible formula for informal urbanization in Mumbai. What is urban informality? Kotvald defines urban informality as a form of producing the built environment and occupying land that is different from the norm. Another scholar defines urban informality as the phenomenon of informal housing settlements on the outer periphery of cities in the developing world. Essentially, these are any sort of housing structures that are built without the approval of government organizations. So how does this manifest itself in Mumbai? The city of Mumbai is home to approximately 21 million people, clustered at a population density of 57,000 people per square mile, which is more than double the density of New York City. Having such a large population size and limited availability of residential space, the city of Mumbai has no choice but to see itself both physically and socially divided. This dual city model is introduced by Frantz Fanon in his Wretched of the Earth. Fanon criticizes colonialism in Algeria during the middle of the 20th century. He describes the dual city hypothesis as the division between the colonists and colonized in Algiers at the time. Fanon's dual city theory argues that a city can be physically and/or socially divided by differences between the two groups. Fanon's dual city theory manifests itself in an alternate form in current-day Mumbai, as it is divided into two completely different cities that coexist within a few miles of one another. One that is developed into a livable city, and one that is severely underdeveloped and filled with makeshift homes. The dual city model translates to the division of the population in Mumbai. An increase in income differentials along with an increase in the degree of segregation is found with respect to population segments, and the household income levels are highly disproportionate. The juxtaposition of the modern city with the extremely underdeveloped counterpart clearly represents a dialectical opposition of developed and underdeveloped within the city of Mumbai, which creates an environment that mimics Fanon's idea of the dual city in Algeria. What Fanon considers to be the oppressed part of this dual city are the informal urban settlements, or in the case of Mumbai, slums. The Indian word Jugaad is a perfect representation for the flexible approach that Mumbai took in order to create slums, which solved their low-income housing problem. These slums are impermanent structures that use innovative problem-solving and resources to create the home where nearly 55% of Mumbai's population resides. Over half the population of Mumbai live in these non-traditional settlements, which means that the developed part of the city is home to the remainder of the population. Plus, the rapid migration movement from rural areas also results in the overpopulation of slums. As the industry of Mumbai developed economically, a huge population moved there to seek job and education opportunities. Despite Mumbai's complex infrastructure and innovative problem-solving within its informal urban landscape, its current sustainability efforts will not be plausible for future generations. So what practices are currently in place in the informal urban landscape? Currently, Mumbai's informal urban landscape utilizes a wide range of innovative techniques to support its infrastructure. One such technique is the inventive use of accessible materials. Since slum sectors and other impoverished areas don't have the luxury of picking and choosing materials for their establishments due to their informality, they have to make do with any materials that are available. These materials include things like sackcloth, corrugated iron, brick, and breeze block. The use of these materials is not only extremely cost-effective, but also very accessible, since they are easy to buy or find laying around. These structures are easily redesignable based on the needs of their occupants. In the case of a natural disaster, they can be rebuilt quite quickly. Also, homes can be restructured and replaced by finding other materials to replace existing ones, leading to a flexible living space. In addition, the slums of Mumbai have an incredible system of food delivery established known as the Dabbawala system. This system allows the working class of the slums to have their lunch delivered to them from their home since they leave for work before food is cooked each morning, all through a simple but incredibly expansive network. Here's how it works. In the morning, a worker picks up the lunch from the customer's home and takes it to the nearest train station, where it is sorted and put onto a wooden crate according to its destination. It is then taken by train to the station closest to its destination. There it is sorted again and assigned to another worker who delivers it to the right office before lunchtime. In the afternoon, the process runs in reverse, and the container is returned to the customer's home. The 5,000 or so Dabbawalas transport more than 130,000 lunchboxes throughout Mumbai each day, and they do it without the use of any cell phones or technology. Crazy, right? Although seemingly effective solutions to the low-income housing situation, this model for living is unsustainable in the future. One of the most prevalent issues facing the city of Mumbai is population growth. In 2012, the population of Mumbai was 18.6 million people. Currently, about 21 million people reside in the city, representing an 11.4% increase over the last decade. This has a greater impact on the slums, since the population density in slum areas is about 4 times greater than the average population density of Mumbai. With rapidly rising population and incredibly high-density areas, the outlook for informal settlements in Mumbai is not a promising one. There simply will not be enough space to house the next generations, especially in impoverished areas. In addition to this major issue, the density of living spaces is becoming increasingly concerning. Currently, data sampled by Taubenbach and Krauf from 3 major slums in Mumbai shows that the average building size was found to be less than 100 square meters in 2 of them, and approximately 300 square meters in the third. In the case of the first, approximately 71 of these settlements could fit on a football field, which exemplifies how closely packed these slum houses really are. Taubenbach and Krauf also found that the building density of each slum was 21,000 buildings per kilometer squared, 25,500 buildings per kilometer squared, and 11,000 buildings per kilometer squared for each of the 3 slums, with most of the buildings being only 1 or 2 stories. These alarming numbers make it very clear that this model for living will not be able to continue in the future due to the rate of population increase in Mumbai. Population growth is also an issue for the double walla system. A significantly higher population will mean that more labor is required to keep this system running. However, the trains, which are already frequently used by the public, cannot handle a considerably higher number of passengers and items on board due to their limited capacity. Currently, trains are already filled to the brim, meaning hopes of expanding the scope of the food system are virtually non-existent. While the alarming growth rates in housing space are enough to make the current housing situation an issue for the future, sanitation is also a prevalent issue. A study done by Sharmila L. Murthy in 2010 outlines that only 0.1% of residents in the slums have access to piped drinking water, and only 3% have access to a private unshared toilet. Due to this scarcity, 14% of people practice open defecation. These practices are not only unsanitary, but also create a highly unhealthy living environment. One major impact of this is higher disease contraction rates, especially for waterborne diseases. Even though roughly 90% of the wastewater is collected throughout the area, most of the water is left untreated and ends up leaking into the ocean or local waterways. This perpetuates a cycle of limited access to potable water, and therefore serious health consequences. Unfortunately, women and children feel the negative impacts of this lifestyle more due to the gender inequalities present in the slums. Murthy quotes that women must wait until after they finish their household work to use the toilets. This restricts women from eating food or drinking water during their household chores, and forces them to find times where they can sneak away to use the bathroom. In addition, children are also significantly more vulnerable to waterborne disease than adults, as their immune systems are yet to be developed. Despite seemingly being a perfect solution, the many negative results of the slums in Mumbai call for additional discourse surrounding the long-term effectiveness and possible alternatives to this solution. The juxtaposition of the developed infrastructure within Mumbai with these impermanent slums is partly a result of the lack of urban planning within Mumbai. Jane Jacobs' concept of bottom-up urban planning and prioritizing the needs of the people of the community is present in the underdeveloped part of the city. Various aspects of the slum rehabilitation program of 1995 have potential to mitigate the problems seen in the slums today. The initiative focused on demolishing current slums to build newer, cheap apartments with a higher density to cover the cost of the more formal and expensive establishments. This model for urbanization in slums holds merit for the future because of its low total cost for both the government and the slum residents. Vision Mumbai, a plan created in 2003 by the U.S. firm McKinsey & Company, attempts to address the same issues. The plan aims to redesign sectors of slums with both improved low-income housing and more luxurious residences, sports complexes, and high-end retail. However, this plan fails to address the issues surrounding the informal urban landscape due to its focal points being derived from an analysis of Western metropolises, which doesn't translate into Mumbai. As discourse continues surrounding the urban planning of Mumbai, it will be important to incorporate aspects of both Jacobs and Moses into the infrastructure in order to understand the needs of the people as well as the city as a whole. In addition to this alternative method of urban planning, another possible way to lessen this problem would be with assistance and intervention of the government. Past interventions of the government in India have occurred and failed, such as the National Slum Development Program, which granted states with loans in order to improve the status of their slums. However, this was proven to be ineffective in Mumbai due to the copious amounts of slums. The government could possibly use funding within Mumbai to focus directly on bettering the underdeveloped area. However, this may cause the population living in the developed side of Mumbai to further neglect those from the poor part of the city, as the government would be directing resources to benefit them. While these practices may work in Mumbai in the status quo, there is evidence that shows us that the slum solution is unsustainable and will not be a viable long-term solution. It is important for the government of Mumbai to intervene in this issue with funding and look closely into the urban layout of the city in order to lessen the divide between the opposing parts of the city.